As I write this, the elevator begins to descend with greater velocity. It began as a joke, but I should have known better. I should have known by the looks of the building and the atmosphere that surrounded it, but instead of turning back to my parents, my brother, and my sisters, I walked inside, like a naive teenager does. My ears are ringing. They're beginning to hurt, almost bleed, even. The others in here with me won't stop screaming. Altogether, there are 5 of us. We are hoping, some of us praying, having been made believers out of this, that the lack of oxygen kills us before we reach wherever this thing is going. It's been slowly descending for almost an hour now, gradually picking up speed. I don't know how that's possible, unless it's descending somewhere very, very deep. I'm surprised I have service. God bless Beelzebub Mobile, I guess. Who knows where it's taking us? The crying stopped, and everyone seems to have accepted their fate. The only woman in here is pregnant. She's holding her boyfriend's hand, saying some prayer in what sounds like Spanish. One man is quietly sitting in a corner with his head down. The other is still banging against the walls of the elevator in a futile attempt to save us all. And I'm on my phone, typing this. I hope it reaches someone. I don't know what brought the others here, but I'm assuming their reasons aren't too different from mine. Curiosity, or maybe like me, someone dared them to. I don't know, I didn't ask. It all happened so quickly that we didn't even have time to react, let alone talk. We thought it was just some Halloween prank, but we're beginning to think the legend is true. We must be on floor -700 or something. The elevator stopped showing us which floor we were on a long time ago. Numbered lights above the doors just flickered, then stopped working altogether, along with the rest of the elevator's buttons. All we're left with is some dim lighting and stuffiness. A lot of stuffiness. The air is quite literally choking us. I can barely breathe as I write this. I'm taking deep, heavy breaths. My phone screen is covered with sweat, and I'm constantly wiping it with my shirt so I can type this. God, there's some sort of screaming. No, not from us. No one in the elevator is making a sound. The screams are coming from outside the elevator. Hideous, hideous howls. Loud, deafening screeches and wails. I think I even hear laughter. What the fuck is going on? And, oh my god, this heat. Someone just touched the elevator door and his hand is fucking burnt. It's all red and callous looking. The elevator is dropping faster. Okay, it stopped. We just hit the bottom. It slowed down first and then it just gently stopped. It's quiet right now. Very, very quiet. But my god, is it hot. Everyone's forehead is dripping and the floor is covered with sweat. Something just hit the elevator. It was very loud. Wait, it just happened again. By the sound of it, it must be something very large because the elevator just slightly shook. The screams are back again. God, they're awful. It sounds like an army of them, like 10,000 voices joined together. Okay, there's a heavy, very loud vibration, and the screaming is still going on. The elevator is shaking at what feels and sounds like hands banging against it. A mob of them. No one is calm right now, they're all panicking. But I'm trying to write this, and as difficult as it will be, I can't panic. I must absolutely write this. To my family, I hope this reaches you. I'm sorry I wasn't the best son, I really am. Even now I'm doing something I'm not supposed to. I should have never done this in the first place. My friends dared me to go inside this building and take this elevator down to the last floor, whose button had no number on it. It was just blank. And, well, I listened. Sorry for not being with you long enough to see the disappointment in your faces at my decision to major in English and write stories for a living. I'm sorry for everything, Mom and Dad. You deserve better than a son who would bring you the pain that's in this letter. You deserve much better than a son who would do that to you. I'm so sorry. You're hearing the loud bending of metal and the doors are slowly opening. Something seems to be prying them open with large black claws. I never thought I'd make the sign of the cross so genuinely. A stroke of heat just entered the elevator at the crack of the doors. It's getting hotter and hotter. We all know what's coming. We all know what's coming. I could see it on everyone's face. This is the end. God, it's loud in here. I don't think I can write more. I don't know what else to say. Trying to describe as much as I can. That woman was just dragged out. Her boyfriend, too. There's fire everywhere, and there's all dead, and I'm by myself without anyone in this elevator. Something just grabbed my leg. I have to post this. My parents always said I was a quiet child. I kept to myself and never liked socializing all too much. I read my books and play with my toys, but whenever someone tried to play with me, I politely asked him to be left alone. I think it's about time I explain why. When I was 4, I used to look out the window as the car sped by. Every now and then I'd see the same thing. A darkly dressed figure crouched on the side of the road with an oddly giddy smile on his face. It wasn't big or toothy like all those silly, scary stories, just a closed-lipped grin. His eyes looked like they were painted on, and his nose was little more than a bump on his smooth, pale face. No ears or hair. My favorite part, though, were the beautiful white feathery wings. I would smile at him, and he would crane his head at me like a bird, before standing up on his long spindly legs and flying away. I called him Mr. Bumbles. Sometimes he'd appear again in the sky at some point during the journey. Other times he'd be gone for a while. That was the extent of our interaction until I started school. My elementary was close by, and I would walk every morning and afternoon. I know, my parents weren't the most careful, but it was also a different era then. Besides, I was always perfectly safe. Mr. Bumbles was always there. He'd hold my hand and hum sweet tunes in an oddly high-pitched tone. It was like a bird song, but with more depth. Like he could convey 1,000 emotions in a single note. Those walks were the highlights of my day. On one occasion, we were walking home, and some local teens cornered me in the park. They couldn't see him, and they started to approach me, grinning evilly. Mr. Bumbles leaned down to me and put his hands over his eyes. I sat down on the ground and did as he instructed. I heard several muffled grunts, a loud crunch, and what sounded like the beginning of a scream being cut off by a loud, meaty smack. After those intense seconds of chaos, it was silent. Quivering with fear, I slowly moved my hands away. The teens were gone. The only sign of their former presence, a crushed pair of sunglasses. Mr. Bumbles reached his hands back down to me. I took it, feeling much more safe with him there. Jumping forward to my teen years, I was 15. Mr. Bumbles was a continuous part of my life that I had learned not to tell others about. We didn't hold hands walking to school anymore, but he was still by my side, humming those sweet, comforting notes. I picked up the guitar in middle school, and he seemed to love when I played, bobbing his head from side to side and humming to the melody. I picked something else up in middle school. Puberty. It hit me like a truck. as my mom always said. Suddenly I was attractive instead of quiet and bookish, and I had a line of guys trying to impress me. Needless to say, as in my childhood, I wasn't an easy nut to crack. Some guys got upset at being turned down, but most gave up. Except Matt. Matt Reynolds was an only child and his parents were rich. Needless to say, he was used to getting what he wanted. So when he asked me out and I politely curbed his advances, he was livid. He tried spreading rumors about me, which failed to do much. Everyone already knew I wasn't a very out there person, so when that failed, he cornered me on my walk home. The attack was sudden, and before I knew what happened, Matt had me pinned to the ground. "You should have just said yes," he said under his breath. "Now we have to do this the hard way." He was reaching for his belt when Mr. Bumbles' long spindly hand curled around his shoulder. He froze, looking at the hand but not registering its presence. And then he was in the air. His limbs flailed and he grabbed for whatever has hold of him, missing each time. Mr. Bumbles caught one of his swings and squeezed his hand. I heard bones shatter. Matt screamed a high-pitched scream, his face going pale. He started praying audibly, begging to be saved. Mr. Bumbles opened his mouth ever so slightly for the first time in all the time I'd ever known him. His words were a whisper, his voice deep and dark as an ocean trench.
"And what God is it you expect us to intervene on your behalf, Matthew? Human refuse like you don't answer to gods."
He grinned, showing teeth as sharp as needle points. "They answer to me." Matt's screams were horrible. I don't think I'll ever forget them. After he was done, Mr. Bumbles closed his maw, an audible vacuum-like noise sounding as his lips sealed. Matt was gone. There was no blood, though his death had been anything but clean. I was curled into a fetal position, weeping at the thought of what almost happened to me. Mr. Bumbles kneeled down and scooped me up as I weighed nothing. I soaked his shoulder in tears. He started to hum a comforting tune, calming my sobs and slowing my fast breathing as he carried me home. He flew us up and through my bedroom window and gently laid me down on my bed. I looked at him with puffy eyes and asked him a question. "Why did you choose to protect me? What's so special about me?" He knelt down to me, pausing to make eye contact with me before saying, "Because you intrigued me. You're the purest-hearted human I've met in my long years wandering this planet. And yet, you've no issue sharing your existence with a creature like me." His smile seemed to tilt upward ever so slightly at the edges.
"I will protect you with the full extent of my power for all of your days. You're the only thing worth the effort."
He slid out of my window, and I fell asleep. My guardian angel is not very holy, not by a long shot, but I love him anyway. It started out ironically. I played Poison in the Well by 10,000 Maniacs loud in my car. People had been protesting for days, saying there's mercury and something else more mysterious in our water supply. Personally, I think it's a whole lot of rubbish, but it certainly caught the media's attention. And what doesn't? Those animals hunt anything that moves. I was a respectable man in my 30s. I considered myself no nonsense and above the hysteria. I had never joined in with any protests and was perfectly happy in my bubble, my bell jar, whatever you want to call it. Why wouldn't I be? I trusted my government. I never would have believed they'd let something like this go unaddressed. I drank water straight from the tap without a second thought, watered my plants and watched them flourish. I gave my dog full bowls of good old tap juice and she lapped it up with no complaint. I noticed nothing. I felt no difference. And anyway, the protesters were all bark. They had no solid evidence, everyone seemed to be unaffected. Until the day the stories turned from mere protests and academia to actual real-life side effects. It started innocently enough, a case of a man with a dreadfully vicious skin condition in our city. The news spread fast and he was described to be peeling away. Thick coils of rotten and dead flesh fell from every part of his body. I thought it was hyperbole and didn't make the connection between that and the water. Why would I? I was never conspiritual. However, the condition spread fast and within 3 days there were thousands of cases popping up everywhere. The first symptoms were subtle, a musty smell around you, like mold, a green tint to the skin between your joints, and then it progressed to you shredding your skin like a snake. It came off in long, thick shreds the color of vomit. It caused mass panic. People stole bottles of water from the stores in hopes of saving themselves, but it made no difference. It was too late. They fasted and starved in hopes of purging themselves of all the fluids, but it still got to them in the end. My plants died, and I was beginning to believe the skeptics. The disease proved fatal. After the skin shriveled off, so did the muscle, and, well, you can imagine what happened after that. I don't like to think about it. It was hard cleaning my dog up. I don't like to think about it. Very quickly, there were few left in my city. I went out every night and raided what was left of the shops, mused on how quickly the fabrics of society fall apart. I had misplaced my trust, apparently. Up until the last moment, the situation was never addressed, and the protesters were too weak to stampede their homes. We were finally silenced. At least, I'm okay. Apart from a green tint here and there. I've been methodically cutting off that skin before it can infect the rest, and it's worked a treat. My name is Mildred. I'm 7. My mommy's working and she's coming home soon. I don't know exactly when, maybe tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. If she hurries, she can save my body. My body in the real world is dripping with crimson blood that's pumping out of my hollow body. How can the human body contain so much blood, especially in a body like mine? I'm small, petite, hard to get clothes to fit me in stores. My body is special and I'm unique in many ways. Mommy says that I'm the most beautiful child in the world. She says I win all the pageants with my walk and my pretty hair and that I have the most perfect body out there. Oh, I can't believe it. It's an out-of-body experience for me. I'm standing and looking at myself in the bathtub, but I'm not surprised. I read it on Reddit once that this happened to people on the brink of death, and most common with bathtub or on hospital beds. I'm looking at my own face submerged in the water, blood oozing out of the cut at the wrist that looks like a grotesque form of pizza sauce and mozzarella mixed in together with pieces of pepperoni. I love pepperoni, but I can't eat a lot because it will make me fat. Winners of pageants can't be fat. I need to be skinny. So mommy feeds me only once a day, but it's good food. I have to keep my body clean and healthy and skinny. Only then I'll be pretty and deserving of being called the pageant queen. course, this means that my body isn't really dead though, if I can see it, right? I have a chance of being revived if someone bursts through the door right now, pumps my heart, or calls an ambulance. I can call an ambulance, can I? Should I? I like how the red is spreading in the water. I love the color red. Maybe I should just wait a little while more, a couple hours or so. I wait and I wait when my body starts to smell. I walked out of the bathroom and get myself an apple. It's red, delicious, kind of gross, but it's okay. I cut a small piece and chew on it. Then I cut another and chew again. I don't know how long later, but my mother comes back from her work trip. I sit quietly by the bedside, frozen. I'm scared she will yell at me. I'm sorry for eating so much like a pig. My mother screams when she enters the bathroom. She starts yelling, "Melody! No, 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 God, no!" She's so loud. Now at least my body will get found. Her eyes turn to look at me. In horror, her fingers still covered with the loose skin melted off from my body, slimy and thick with gooey blood. She looks at me. "Mildred, what have you done?" "It's my body," I say. "She can't have it." My twin sister, Melody, is gone. This is my body now. Oh my fucking god! I screamed suddenly, looking at the clock. James and I had agreed that working on home office would be the best way for me to keep track of our children's activities. Now there I was, failing at it. I quickly threw a jacket over my pitiful working pajamas and grabbed the car keys. I'll admit to have driven slightly recklessly. The thought of my poor boy sitting all alone in the playground was too hard to bear. Literally 1 second after I parked the car, the back door was opened and a little blonde boy materialized on his usual seat. "Hey, Mommy," he greeted me cheerfully. His golden hair was covered in sweat, despite the cool weather. "Hello, Tommy," I smiled back. At least his clothes weren't muddied. "Too much running around today?" "Just a little," he replied, and started drawing furiously on a coloring book. When I say furiously, I mean it literally. Tommy was making holes with the crayon across the pages. Is 5 supposed to be a strange age? His older sister was the most quiet, easygoing girl during kindergarten. I can't believe it's been over 5 years ago. Maybe because he's a boy. Boys are always difficult. "Mom, I'm hungry. What's for dinner today?" Shit. James used his day off today to spend his day with our 6-month-old at his mother's house so I could get some work done. Making dinner was the last thing in my mind. I texted my husband on a red light. Tommy was still using his crayon to destroy the coloring book, but at least he was quiet. "Don't worry, baby, I'll bring food from Mom," was his reply. Great, now my delightful mother-in-law knew I'm not able to work, take care of my children, and feed my family at the same time. A horrible thought crossed my mind. Why did we even have 3? I always said I wanted only 2 kids. "Mom, I'm so hungry," Tommy said again. We still had a while before dinner, so I stopped by a famous fast food drive-thru and got him a burger absent-mindedly. When we finally got home, I unpacked the car and noticed Timmy had only eaten the meat, leaving bread, pickles, and cheese behind. Ugh, the picky eater face. I left Tommy playing downstairs and headed back to my office. If I hurried, I could get all my work done before James and our baby girl were back. My oldest was at our neighbor's, getting some school project done. God bless the Davidsons and their well-behaved daughter, who's good friends with mine. "Just 1 more hour. You can do it," I psyched myself. After putting on some classical music on the headphones, I immersed myself in work. My hungry stomach hurting was the only thing that made me realize that a lot of time had passed. For the second time that day, I cursed out loud because I lost track of time. It was 10 p.m. Why the fuck James didn't come fetch me for dinner when he got home? I went downstairs angrily, but stopped dead in my tracks as soon as I realized the smell. But despite the metallic and bitter scent, nothing could prepare me for the carnage on my very living room. James and my 2 daughters were completely mangled, their blood and guts all scattered. Their eyes and part of their viscera were missing. I'll never know if they screamed before being ripped apart, but I'm assuming they didn't, or the neighbors would have called the police. Unless the neighbors were eaten too. Tommy said he was hungry, and then I realized I don't know any Tommy. I don't even have a son. Hi there, thank you for watching. If you wish to see more videos like this, be sure to click on the playlist link down in the description. If you'd like to see more, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell. If you'd like to get in contact with me and send me your own stories, there's a link to my Discord and email in the description. See you next time.